Yeah. All right. So investors, what kind of advice are you giving investors right now?
I think the October through February will be a really good time because I think on an overall perspective, if someone's listing their house in this much of an off season, they're obviously more motivated. That's the
Mhm.
bet. That's the biggest thing. And then number two is it depends what they're using it for. I have two sets of investors. Some will go in with cash and use it as essentially a bond that's going to appreciate where you try to get 3 to 4% return in
Yeah.
this area. Appreciation rates are higher, so the yearly income is a little lower. And then if you're going to leverage it, just try to. A lot of people think, oh, if I'm breaking even, I'm breaking even, but they don't realize you're paying down the principal. So what I always tell investors is just get in, do it. It sounds
Right.
very, very simple, but I've worked with one couple, and in 2012, I advised them, look, buy one house a year for the next 10 years. And now, guess who their favorite realtor is?
Yeah. Yeah. People just aren't appreciating, even though, yeah, the interest rates are high, than they were. Like they've increased. Let's call it 2%. They're buying this asset that's going to be appreciating conservatively 3 to 4. Right now, it's in double
Yeah.
digits, but that's only because there's an inventory shortage. But it's a 6 figure or 7 figure asset appreciating at 3 or 4%. It's going to far outpace whatever couple $100 you're paying in interest rate. So
Yep.
it still is. It's still a great time to buy, and it's really not a bad time to buy real estate because our population keeps growing, and
And
for the
just buy them,
foreseeable
hold on
future,
to them. Just
yeah,
hold on to them. Don't, I mean, and that's where if it was my money thing, I always get people who are like, I want to flip properties. And I was like, Northern Virginia kind of, I mean, I'm sure there are some out there, but it's just a tough place to flip them because you just can't get that.
yeah.
You have to get the distressed property before you rehab it.
Yeah.
And then,
How do you advise on whether, let's say you have a first time investor, a couple that just wants to buy an apartment to rent, and do I want to get the call at 2 in the morning and get more margin on what I'm charging, or do I want to hire property management? Is it just
depends how many. I think for your first one, I always tell people because property management's usually 8 to 10%. I mean, I have three investment properties, so I always give them advice based on what I've encountered.
yeah,
And if you can do, and what I always do too is obviously my vendors are their vendors, so that makes it a lot easier. Where
yeah.
I tell people if this is your first one, manage it yourself, but they always have me to come to for my vendors and for just general advice. And
That's
then if you get more than three, I've learned and noticed that's when it starts to sort of multiply, and you might want to get the property management help.
that's just that one is gold right there, man. I really appreciate that insight, and hopefully I can get you maybe once a month to just give a
Yeah,
state of the market in
yeah, that'd
Northern
be cool. This is
Virginia.
awesome.
Yeah, because I grew up there, and we're in 7 states in Puerto Rico, but I don't want to do all those states. I mean, I can,
Right.
but those are the three: Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida, are where I concentrate. So to have a realtor with your knowledge in Northern Virginia is excellent for me, and whoever I know in my circle, because you went to South Lakes, and I'm sure there's a lot of South Lakes people out there who could utilize your service. How would someone get in contact with you?
My cell phone 703-622-0663. And then my email is pete@peterknapprealtygroup.com. But I'm not ashamed to say it. I text back right. I'm always available because I frankly, I really like doing this.
Yeah.
As you
Yeah, if
know,
you don't, yeah, you would have gotten out a long time ago. Because again, this
oh,
business is not for the faint of heart.
no, and and that's the thing is I always tell anyone on my team, I'm like, just listen to me because I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but I'm saving you a lot of time
Yeah,
because before I formed my team, I was just out on my own, and I had good broker support in my rearview mirror. I actually did,
yeah,
but as you know, structure wise, a broker's in charge of a zillion agents, so it's
yeah,
really hard to get that. My brokers were good and they were there for me, but
right.
I do know that if every agent went to them, they wouldn't have enough time.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
so
and the market's changed all the time, and I try to get people not talking heads and getting clicks what gets those is the negative, negative news and
Right.
what's bad in the market. Talk to you, the realtors that you know in the business. Like, I know the mortgage side, but if someone asks me about listing price and what do you think my house, I'm like, no, talk to a realtor, talk to my realtor, because they're the ones that's in the trenches, and it's changing every day.
That's
Like,
that's what's so hard is that, yeah, you make a great point where if I need something on the lending side, I need to go to an expert. But I always compare real estate a little bit to buying a car. The car isn't as big of a expense, but it is the sort of the same timing, and maybe every 5 to 10 years,
yeah,
and you go and do it. And if you have a bad experience, you don't have the opportunity to correct that till 5 or 10 years later, you
right,
know? And so, and I hear so much like people will just call me because I just know a lot of people and they're having bad experience with their realtors. And I'm like, well, how'd you get them? Well, they were the mom of one of my friends or whatever. And it's like, you
right.
got to dig a little deeper and really ask people, what your pedigree is in terms of how much you sold and, things like that.
Right, and I'm sure you give a lot of free advice.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
expecting, yeah, because it does help the industry as a whole. Yeah, maybe they're not going to do business with you, but at least it's going to help somebody with the transaction, and it's going to be positive where they go, well, that wasn't so bad. This realtor told me this, and yeah, maybe my realtor wasn't giving me what I wanted, but I know that's just not, that was like an aberration or
Yeah.
anomaly or
And you
something
make
like
it.
that.
And one thing too, I think I think I said earlier, one day I'll write, if I ever write a book, the mental part of being a realtor, and I'm sure being a lender too, like people don't see when someone goes to you and then you do all this work and then you don't work with them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then they're like,
it happens. It happens,
exactly.
and you just say, "Well, I'm sure they'll speak highly." I had a horrible experience where, uh, in the spring when things started going crazy with the market, lenders stuck, because I'm a broker, and one of our outlets just decided they weren't going to do a loan anymore, and I had a loan that was in final approval. They didn't even grandfather it. They just said, "We're not doing it."
Oh,
And it's like, but I told the guy, I said, look, you didn't have control over it. I don't have control over it. I'll find an answer to you where you
right.
can get what you're looking for. And he's already referred somebody
Totally. And
because I helped. I mean, I felt horrible, and I was really upset because it's like this was in final approval. You didn't just find out today that you weren't going to be doing this loan,
right.
and you're not going to grandfather it. But that's the brutality of the business that we're in. And if you get too worked up, because I used to die over that kind of stuff, but now I'm
Oh,
like so zen about it.
you and me both. I think we probably like there was timing where it has both, because that has been my biggest maturation, because we've talked a little bit about double-edged swords, and I think when you care, because overall I think I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and so I
Yeah,
think I had this like view of myself as I don't get stressed or I don't whatever. I care so much that I actually do get stressed.
yeah, yeah.
One of my really really good friends, I sort of had some stuff happen, and I saw the light a little bit in terms of
Right,
dealing with stress, and I was like, you know what, I'm not doing anyone any good with being stressed. And
right.
he was like, yeah, you were wound a little tight. For him
And
to,
that's a good friend. That's a
yeah.
good friend that'll tell you. I mean, you see me on my bike all the time. If I didn't have that bicycle, woo,
Oh, that's why I run. Like everyone,
yeah,
everyone they see. I always post my like running stories and like, why do you run so much or whatever? I'm like, because
I'm in
stress.
real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
don't want to be anywhere with a high power rifle picking off anybody. I'm trying trying to get rid of the demons. You said you're getting into social media. Do you have social media where people can follow you yet,
yeah, I
are we
just,
going to put Kylie on that?
yeah, Kylie's on it, and I have Pete. I think I do a decent job. I have Peter Knapp 10, which is on Instagram. That's my Instagram handle, and those go over to the Facebook stories. But I'm a
Got it.
little old manish with social media, where I'm just amazed at like what goes on. But we did our first like Instagram reel for one of our
Oh,
listings, and it was
nice.
so cool. Yeah, and so we're gonna do more and more of those. I got this video and media company, so because you know how it is. I don't want to. I've never been too much of like an in your face sort of
Yeah,
guy, and so finding that middle is really difficult because I don't want to lead with the fact of you know, all I am is a realtor. So I've had some good people sort of helping me and just saying like, you know, just post stuff for what you do every day.
Yeah, here's the thing, Peter, and you won't say it, but I'm going to say it. People want to know you, and they'll realize really quickly you're a good person.
That's
So
what
you're
one of my
not
best.
out. Yeah, you're not out saying, "Hey, work for me, work for me." They're just going to naturally, and you do want to work with people who want to work with you. You don't want to coerce anybody into dealing with you. You know what I mean?
One funny story I have to tell you on that note is that my mom, I'm pretty sure she thought your bike was your girlfriend because she goes, they're so good. She goes, I was telling her that we were going to be catching up. And so she was like, yeah, I think he's dating someone now. I'm like, yeah, Mom, I think that's his bike, but
And I know she loves me to death, but she has just put a full on indictment on my social life because
that was so
that is, as sad as it sounds, that is not far from the truth. So she wasn't too far off. Oh, please give her my love, and I
See you
appreciate the
later.
time.
Yeah,
And
dinner
yeah,
with
if
her
there's
tonight.
anything I can do, you can always reach out. If I can help the newbie Kylie with insights on this side of it, give
Awesome.
her my cell, and I'm always available.
And I'll be coming down to see you, I swear.
All right, man. I'm not. Hey, look, I got an open door policy. You'll get me out of my cave because that's
Right.
pretty much all I do. Is I'm so much more efficient now that I'm here in this quiet little town and nobody knows me.
And where
So
are you at now?
I'm in St. Petersburg.
Oh, okay. You know, I have a pretty strong history there. My grandfather lived there, and I started going there when I was 8.
Oh, no kidding.
So that's like
Like
sort of like a second home.
what part? Were they Gulf side or
No, he lived in Clear. He lived in a place called Feather Sound for a little bit, and then he lived
okay?
down by the beach, like by John's Pass.
Yep,
That
yep, yep.
when I was probably 8 to 15, he had a little place down by John's Pass, down by the beach, and then I stayed really, really close with them. And he passed about 8 years ago, and my grandmother about 4 years ago. But I would go down and see them 3 or 4 times a year, and then me and Trent would go down and we'd go to Universal Studios and Disney, and then just drive to Tampa. So I know
Yeah,
really well.
I hired a business coach in 2016, and she essentially gave me my marching orders as to figure out my. Well, I already kind of knew my why, but gave me 5 years, and I
Okay.
just stumbled on to St. Pete. And the funny thing is, 90% of my business is still in Pennsylvania, but because of COVID, so many people are used to just doing everything virtually now
Right.
that the transition was so smooth that I actually I've done loans this year where the realtor says, "Hey, let's go out for drinks or a beer afterwards." I'm like, I'm in Florida, right?
Oh, really?
And that's exactly what I want. I mean,
That's
that's
awesome.
exactly. I don't want to stop. I'm more efficient in Pennsylvania, and I do both. But this place, just to have the sunshine all the time.
Oh, I love it down there. It's
Yeah.
like,
When you get stressed, this is where you can come, man, and it'll immediately with the sun shining on you. I mean, look at my tan. I'm looking great, man.
well, I know, I noticed that. And then,
Because I was pasty before.
well, it's funny. Whenever I go over that bridge, you know, you fly into there, and then you just
Yeah.
go over that bridge. And I just remember when I was a little kid, and still when I go there, you just feel just different.
Yeah. And you might want to even get a license down here because it's a pretty hot market too.
That's what I hear. And actually,
Yeah.
there's one of my clients. I was thinking of you too. He's been going down there a fair amount.
Yeah.
And might be looking for an investment property.
Well, I'm always available, brother, and I will be in contact. Like I said, I'd love to do this once a month, just to
Once a
check
month
in and
is
see what's
great.
happening in the Northern Virginia market because you've been so helpful for, I'm sure, a lot of people.
Awesome, man. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Okay. Have a great day and sell, sell, sell.
All right, man.